Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to be covering lots of cool things, but most importantly, we're going to be looking at how we can child a actor to another actor. As you can see here, the rifle is a child of the shooter character, and how we can make it such that the mesh there is actually attached to the hand of this skeletal mesh. As you can see, that gun is moving around with that player's hand. Let's dive in and see how it's done. So the first thing we want to do before putting our gun in the hands of this mesh is we want to remove or hide the gun that is currently there. Now, I find that the easiest way of doing this is to hide the bone that has the gun mesh. Let's have a look. So if we go over to the shooter character, BP would be a good entry point for this, and then I want to go to the actual mesh. Here we've got the skeletal mesh, and if I go to the skeleton, then we can find that this gun here, if I click on the gun, has got a bone leading up to it called the weapon bone and weapon _R. And basically we want to hide this, but the easiest way to hide this across the board is going to be to do it in code, and we're going to do it in C++. So the first thing is to get hold of the mesh component. The way to do this when you're on a character subclass is to call to getMesh. Cool. So we've got getMesh. Then with the mesh, we want to hide the bone. There is handily a hide bone by name method, and this actually exists on the parent of the skeletal mesh component, the skinned mesh component. Let's have a look at the header file briefly. Skinned mesh component.h. There is a couple of functions here. The one we're looking for is hide bone by name. So you can see the signature here. We've got the bone name comes in, an F name, and then the second thing is this eFizzBodyOp. Now, as far as I can tell, this isn't used in the code base, but we've got to provide it because it's there in the signature. So let's go ahead and use it. So arrow, going to do the hide bone by name. Unfortunately, my autocomplete's not working. That's a bug in 4.25 at the moment in VS Code. Autocomplete doesn't 100% want to work, but that's okay. We can learn to do it the manual way instead. Then we're going to want the name of the bone, and I'll leave that up to you as an exercise to fill that out in a second. And then the second thing is we wanted that fizz op body thing. And we're just going to go for, that's an enum, so we're going to need to fill it out. I'm going to use F12 to go to the definition and see what we have got. PBO none, don't do anything. That sounds like a sensible default. Let's go with that. And then we'll use the semicolon to finish off our line right there. So let's compile this and see if we've got all the includes we need. Cool, looks like it's working, so we must have all the includes we need. Now, what's your challenge is to put in the bone name. Give that a quick go, mini challenge, and we're coming back. The bone name is weapon _R. It was hinted at a little bit before. Weapon _R should do the trick. If we go ahead and recompile with that now, and we hit play, you can see that he's no longer holding a gun. Fantastic. So the next thing is to put a different gun in his hand, the actor gun. So we need to go over to our skeleton, and what we want to do here is add in a new socket. So we're going to add in a socket in place of our weapon R. And what is a socket? A socket, as it sounds like a plug socket, is something that you can plug in. It's a point at which you can plug in other things. So you might want to be able to plug in, for example, a gun. And you want it to be childed not to the mesh as a whole, but to a specific bone of that mesh, which means that it'll move correctly with the character's arms when he's doing an animation, when he's jogging around. It's going to look like it's attached to his hand rather than somewhere on it, not rigidly fixed to his torso. So we're going to add a child socket to a weapon R. To do this, you go to the skeleton, you right-click on the bone that you want to attach this socket to, and you click Add Socket, and we're just going to call this one the weapon socket. I'm using camel case here as my convention, and that's what we're going to want to attach to. Now, you'll see where this comes in handy when we go to actually do the attachment for our gun. Now, the thing to note here is that we don't want to do a setup attachment as we would do in the constructor. At runtime, when we do attachment, we have to use a different set of functions rather than the ones we use in the constructor. And remember when I said that the only hierarchy here really is between scene components. Now, fortunately, we don't have to go in and get the root component of the gun and attach it. There is a helper method on the actor that allows us to do attachment, and that is attach to component. So let's see where that's defined. If we go to look at the actor.h header file, and there's a couple of these. We want the one that lives under game framework, and we're going to go and search in here for attach to component, open brackets, and find the actual declaration. Here it is. So what's this going to take in? It's going to take in a uScene component, the parent that we want to attach to. In this case, it's going to be our skeletal mesh of the character. The transform rules, we'll get to this in just a second, and then, there you go, the socket name. That's where on a skeletal mesh should we attach to. If it's a skeletal mesh, it'll attach to the socket. If it is not a skeletal mesh, it'll ignore the socket argument and just attach, if it's a static mesh, for example. So we want to attach to get mesh. We have these transform rules. What are those? Let's click through F12 to click through to the different rules that are available. There's these are the preset rules. You can define your own, but you might as well use these preset ones. We've got keep relative transform, keep world transform, snap to target not including scale. We'll ignore these last two. The main two to look out for are these first two, and it basically means when we're attaching, should it stay the same place it was in the world, or should we use that world position as the new local position? In our case, because we want that gun to essentially be at 0, 0, which would be its location in the world, we want to keep the relative transform. So let's do that. We're going to have the F transform rules, keep relative transform. So F transform rules, colon, colon, and then it should be, let me see, just copy over the keep relative transforms, like so. And then we want the socket. So again, text macro here, and then the socket name, which was weapon socket. And finish off the line. That's going to set up the attachment. And now the final point is going to be we want to set up the gun to have this class as its owner. This is a bit of a subtle point. Why do we have an owner? I just said that there wasn't any hierarchy between actors. Well, there isn't in the sense of transforms, but they do have ownership. And where this ownership really comes into play is in multiplayer and in damage. So we'll see later on how we will need to know about the owner. It also allows the gun to know what is the owning character, and it can use that to get references to the owning character. Later on, this will be useful. At the moment, we don't particularly care, but we're just going to do it for completeness sake. I've actually named this wrong. It shouldn't be setup owner, but set owner to this, because this is the actor that is the owner of the gun. Cool beans. Let's compile and see if this is working. Compiled successful. Let's dive in and play the game. Awesome. We have got a weapon in our hands. Is it in the right place? Let's have a look. Let's F8 out of here and have a look at the hand. Not quite. You can see that we could do a little bit of adjusting here. So that's what we're going to do. And this is a challenge for you. Basically, what you're going to try and do is find what the offset should be on the mesh such that this handle is actually inside our mesh's Wraith character's hand. Pause the video and have a go at that. Okay, welcome back. So I'm going to do this by selecting that mesh and trying to move it. I'm going to have to set the grid snap size in the viewport to a little bit less, and I'm going to try and zoom in as best I can on that hand. Okay, bringing that down a little bit. I think that's a good shout. Now let's go ahead and copy the location and open up, go to the content browser and open up the BP rifle. Open the full blueprint editor, go to the mesh and stop simulating and paste the location that we had copied in there. Okay, cool, copy that and let's go and hit play. And let's see that it actually brought across the right thing. F8 out and zoom in. By the way, you can use the scroll wheel to slow down your movement when you're moving in this kind of way. Fantastic. Looks like he has got his hand directly on the handle. Awesome stuff. So we have learnt how we can child actors to other actors and how we can attach scene components to sockets of skeletal meshes. In the next lecture, we're going to be looking a little bit at shooting and how this gun architecture basically dovetails into a shooting architecture. So I'll see you there.